The rain came down hard that November evening. Sarah Martinez stood in her kitchen, washing dishes while her daughter Emma did homework at the table. The old ranch house was warm and quiet, just the way Sarah liked it. Outside, the wind howled and rain hit the windows like tiny rocks. Sarah had lived in this house for 3 years now. 3 years since her divorce. 3 years of building a life that was safe and peaceful. She worked at the grocery store in town during the day. Emma went to school. At night, they had dinner together, did homework, and watched a little TV before bed. It was simple. It was predictable. And that was exactly what Sarah wanted. She did not want surprises. She did not want chaos. She especially did not want men showing up and making promises they could not keep. Her ex-husband had taught her that lesson well enough. Emma was 7 years old now, with dark hair like her mother and curious brown eyes that noticed everything. She was a good kid, smart, maybe too smart sometimes. She asked questions that Sarah was not always ready to answer. "Mama, why don't you have friends come over?" Emma asked one day. "We have each other, baby." "That's enough," Sarah had replied, and it was enough. It had to be. The knock on the door came at 8:30. Sarah froze. Nobody came to their house at night. Nobody came to their house at all, really. They lived 2 miles outside of Austin, Texas, down a dirt road that most people did not know existed. Emma looked up from her math homework. "Someone's at the door." "Stay here," Sarah said. She dried her hands on a towel and walked to the front door slowly. Her heart beat fast in her chest. Through the window beside the door, she could see a man standing on her porch. He was tall and wore a cowboy hat that dripped with rain. His truck sat at the edge of her driveway, hood up, steam rising from the engine. Sarah opened the door just a crack. "The chain lock stayed on. Can I help you?" she asked. Her voice was cold and careful. The man took off his hat. Water ran down his face. He looked tired, maybe 40 years old, with lines around his eyes and a jaw that had not been shaved in days. His clothes were soaked through. "Ma'am, I'm real sorry to bother you," he said. His voice was rough, like gravel. "My truck broke down just there at the edge of your property. I was wondering if I could use your phone to call a tow truck." "Mine's dead." Sarah looked past him at the truck. It was old, beat up, covered in mud. She looked back at the man. He had blue eyes that looked sad and empty at the same time. "Wait here," she said. She closed the door and went to get her cell phone from the kitchen. "Who is it, Mama?" Emma asked. "Just someone who needs help with their truck. Stay at the table." Sarah came back to the door and opened it again, still keeping the chain on. "What's the number?" The man blinked. "You're not going to let me in?" "No, sir, I'm not." "What's the number for the tow truck?" For a second, something flashed in his eyes. Anger, maybe, or hurt. But then it disappeared and he just looked tired again. "I don't know the local number. I'm not from around here." Sarah thought for a moment. Then she unhooked the chain and stepped out onto the porch, pulling the door closed behind her. The rain was loud on the roof over their heads. She looked up the tow company on her phone and called them herself. "Henderson's Towing? Yes, I need a truck sent out to 4782 Ranch Road. There's a broken down vehicle here. How long? Okay, thank you." She hung up. "They'll be here in about 45 minutes. The man nodded. "Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it." "You can wait in your truck," Sarah said. "It's raining pretty hard. There's a shed over there with a roof. You can stand under that." The man looked at her for a long moment. The rain dripped off his hat. "You don't trust strangers much, do you?" "No, sir, I don't." "Can't say I blame you." He put his hat back on. "What's your name?" Sarah hesitated. "Sarah, I'm Jake Hollister." He stuck out his hand. Sarah did not shake it. She kept her arms crossed over her chest. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Hollister. The tow truck will be here soon." Jake dropped his hand. He nodded slowly. "Right. Well, thank you for the help, Sarah." He turned and walked down the porch steps into the rain. Sarah watched him go. He walked past his truck and stood under the shed, just like she had told him to. He looked cold and miserable. Sarah felt a small twist of guilt in her stomach, but she pushed it away. She had learned the hard way that being kind to strange men led to nothing but trouble. It was better to be cold, better to be safe. She went back inside and locked the door behind her. Emma was standing in the hallway, watching through the window. "Mama, that man looks really cold." "He'll be fine, baby. The tow truck is coming." "Why didn't you let him come inside?" "Because we don't know him." "But it's raining." "Emma, go finish your homework." Emma gave her mother that look. The one that said she did not understand why grown-ups had to be so mean sometimes. But she went back to the kitchen table and picked up her pencil. Sarah stood at the window and watched Jake Hollister standing under her shed. He did not look at the house. He just stared out at the rain, his hands in his pockets, looking like the loneliest man in the world. Something about the way he stood there made Sarah's chest feel tight. She had seen that look before. She had worn it herself for a long time after her divorce. It was the look of someone who had lost everything and did not know how to find their way back. But that was not her problem. She had her own life to worry about, her own daughter to protect. The tow truck arrived 30 minutes later. Sarah watched from the window as Jake talked to the driver. They hooked up his truck and loaded it onto the flatbed. Before he climbed into the tow truck, Jake looked back at the house. Sarah stepped away from the window quickly, not wanting him to see her watching. When they drove away, Sarah felt relieved, and a little bit sad, though she could not explain why. "Is he gone?" Emma asked. "Yes, baby. He's gone. Will we see him again?" No, probably not, but Sarah was wrong about that. Very wrong. 2 days later, she was driving home from work when she saw a truck parked at the Henderson Ranch down the road. It was old and beat up and covered in mud. The same truck that had been broken down at her house. And standing next to it, fixing a fence, was Jake Hollister. Sarah's hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. Her heart started beating fast again. He was still here. Why was he still here? She drove past without slowing down. But she saw him look up. She saw him see her. And she saw something in his face that scared her. Recognition and interest. That night, Sarah could not sleep. She kept thinking about Jake Hollister, about his sad blue eyes and his rough voice and the way he had looked at her house like it was the only warm place in the world. She told herself it did not matter. He was working at the Henderson Ranch, which was 2 miles away. Their paths did not have to cross again. She could keep her distance. She could keep her walls up, but deep down Sarah knew something had changed. A stranger had knocked on her door, and even though she had not let him inside, somehow he had gotten in anyway. Not into her house, but into her thoughts. Into that small, scared part of her heart that she had locked away 3 years ago, and that was more dangerous than any man standing on her porch in the rain. Emma came into her room that night, unable to sleep. "Mama, are you okay?" Sarah pulled her daughter close. "I'm fine, baby. You seem worried." "I'm not worried. Just thinking." "About what?" "Nothing important. Go back to bed." But it was important. Sarah knew it was. Because for the first time in 3 years, she felt something other than safety and routine. She felt afraid, and underneath the fear there was something else, something that felt almost like hope, and that was the most terrifying feeling of all. Jake Hollister had not planned to stay in this town. He had not planned anything, really. For the past 6 months he had just been driving, running from memories and mistakes that followed him no matter how many miles he put on his truck. The rodeo circuit had chewed him up and spit him out. 20 years of riding bulls and broncos, and what did he have to show for it? A bad knee, a worse temper, and a bank account that was almost empty. His wife had left him 2 years ago, took their son Marcus with her. Jake could not blame her. He had been a terrible husband, angry all the time, drinking too much, never home, and when he was home he wished he was somewhere else. Now he was 42 years old and had nothing. No family, no home, no purpose. That night his truck broke down. He had been thinking about just giving up, maybe driving until he ran out of road, maybe disappearing into Mexico and never coming back. But then that woman had opened her door. Sarah. She had looked at him like he was dangerous, and maybe he was. But she had also helped him. Even though she was scared, even though she did not trust him, she had called the tow truck. She had given him shelter from the rain, even if it was just under a shed. Something about her had stuck in his mind. The way she held herself, strong but fragile at the same time, like she had been broken once and put herself back together with wire and willpower. He understood that. He was held together the same way. The tow truck driver had been chatty. He told Jake about the Henderson Ranch looking for help. Said they needed someone who knew their way around horses and fences. The pay was not much, but it came with a place to stay. Jake almost said no. He almost told the driver to take him to the bus station so he could leave this town behind. But instead, he asked for directions to the Henderson Ranch. Mr. Henderson was a tough old man with a white beard and eyes that saw right through people. He looked Jake up and down. You know horses? Yes, sir. Grew up on a ranch in Montana. You run from the law? No, sir. You drink? Jake hesitated. I have, but I'm trying not to. Mr. Henderson nodded. Honest answer. I can work with honest. You start tomorrow, 5 in the morning. Don't be late. That was 2 weeks ago. Now Jake worked from sunrise to sunset, mending fences and training horses and fixing whatever needed fixing. The work was hard and his body ached, but it felt good to be useful again. To have a reason to get up in the morning. The Henderson ranch was 2 miles from Sarah's house. Jake told himself he did not think about her. He told himself he did not drive past her place in the evenings just to see if her lights were on. He was lying. There was something about her that he could not shake. Maybe it was the way she had protected herself and her daughter. Maybe it was the fear in her eyes that he recognized because he saw it in the mirror every day. Or maybe it was just that she was the first person in a long time who had looked at him and seen someone worth helping, even if she did not want to admit it. The storm came on a Wednesday night. Jake heard the weather report and made sure all the horses at the Henderson ranch were secure in the barn. The wind picked up around midnight, howling like something wild and angry. By morning, the storm had passed, but it had left damage behind. Jake was checking the fence line when he saw them. 3 horses running loose in the field beyond the Henderson property. He recognized them right away. They were Sarah's horses. Jake looked toward her house. Her fence had a big section torn down, probably from a fallen branch. The horses had gotten out and run. He should have gone to her house and told her. But he did not want to scare her again. So instead, he spent the next 2 hours rounding up her horses himself. It was not easy. They were spooked from the storm and did not want to be caught. But Jake was patient. He had always been good with animals, better than he was with people. By the time he got all 3 horses back to Sarah's property, he was covered in mud and sweat. The sun was just coming up, painting the sky pink and orange. Sarah came out of her house in a bathrobe, her hair messy from sleep. When she saw Jake standing in her pasture with her horses, her mouth fell open. What are you doing here? Your fence broke in the storm. Your horses got out. I brought them back. She looked at the broken fence, then at the horses, then at Jake. Her face went through about 5 different emotions: surprise, confusion, suspicion, and finally, reluctant gratitude. I didn't ask you to do that. I know. How did you know they were out? I work at the Henderson ranch. I saw them running loose this morning. Sarah wrapped her robe tighter around herself. Thank you. But you should have just told me. You didn't have to spend your morning chasing my horses. Jake shrugged. They needed to be caught. I know horses. Made sense for me to do it. They stood there in awkward silence. The morning air was cool and fresh after the storm. Birds were starting to sing. Would you like some coffee? Sarah asked suddenly. Then she seemed surprised at her own words. Jake was surprised too. Sure, that would be nice, and Sarah looked nervous. On the porch. I'll bring it out. On the porch is fine. Sarah went inside. Jake sat down on the porch steps, too tired and dirty to sit on her furniture. He could hear her moving around in the kitchen. Smell the coffee brewing. She came out a few minutes later with 2 mugs. She handed him one and sat down on the steps too, keeping a careful distance between them. They drank their coffee and watched the sun come up over the fields. How long have you been working at the Henderson place? Sarah asked. 2 weeks. You planning to stay? Don't know yet. Why do you ask? Sarah was quiet for a moment. Just wondering if I need to get used to having a neighbor. I'm 2 miles away. Not really a neighbor. In ranch terms, that's next door. Jake smiled a little. It felt strange on his face. He had not smiled much lately. Fair point. Where are you from originally? Montana. Little town you've never heard of. Family there? Jake's smile disappeared. Not anymore. Got a son, but he's with his mother in Colorado. We don't talk much. I'm sorry, don't be. My own fault, they were quiet again. The silence was not uncomfortable, though. It felt okay. I have a daughter, Sarah said. Emma, she's 7. I saw her in the window that night. She looks like you. That's what people say. Sarah took a sip of her coffee. Her father and I divorced 3 years ago. He lives in Dallas now. Sees her once a month, if that. Also sorry about that. Also my own fault. I picked him. Jake looked at her. You can pick the wrong person and it's still not your fault when they let you down. Sarah met his eyes. For a second, something passed between them. Understanding, maybe. Recognition. Like they both knew what it felt like to be disappointed and to disappoint. Then Sarah looked away. I should get ready for work. Right, I should get back to the Henderson place. Jake stood up and handed her his empty mug. Thanks for the coffee? Thanks for finding my horses. Jake nodded and started walking toward his truck. Then he stopped and turned back. Sarah, your fence needs fixing. I could come by this weekend and do it if you want. Won't charge you anything, just being neighborly. Sarah hesitated. He could see her weighing the offer. Trust against suspicion, need against fear. Okay, she said finally. Saturday morning? Saturday morning. Jake drove back to the Henderson ranch with a strange feeling in his chest. Something light and warm that he had not felt in a long time. Hope, maybe, or the beginning of something that could turn into hope if he was careful with it. Saturday morning, Jake showed up at Sarah's house at 8 with tools and fence posts in the back of his truck. Emma was outside playing with a jump rope. She stopped when she saw him. You're the man from the rain, she said. That's right. I'm Jake. I'm here to fix your fence. I'm Emma. Nice to meet you, Emma. Sarah came out of the house. She looked nervous but also a little bit happy, which made Jake's chest feel warm again. Morning, he said. Morning. Can I help with anything? Just point me toward your tools and I'll get started. They worked together all morning. Jake did most of the work, but Sarah helped where she could, holding posts steady while he hammered. Emma played nearby, chattering about school and her friends and her favorite TV shows. She asked Jake a million questions. Do you like horses? Do you have any kids? What's your favorite color? Can you whistle? Where do you live? Jake answered patiently. It felt good to talk to a kid again. It reminded him of when Marcus was young before everything fell apart. By noon, the fence was fixed. Sarah made sandwiches and they ate on the porch. Emma sat between them, still asking questions. Do you have a wife? Emma asked. Emma. Sarah's face turned red. That's a rude question. It's okay, Jake said. No, I don't have a wife anymore. We got divorced. My mom and dad got divorced too, Emma said. It made my mom really sad for a long time. Emma, that's enough, Sarah said firmly. But Emma kept going. Do you get lonely? Jake looked at this little girl with her big, curious eyes. He thought about lying, but he had told Mr. Henderson that honesty was important, so he should probably stick with that. Yeah, he said quietly. I get lonely sometimes. Emma nodded like that made perfect sense. Me too. Even though I have my mom, sometimes I still feel lonely. Sarah looked like she might cry. She stood up quickly. Emma, go inside and wash up for your piano practice, but Mama, now please. Emma sighed and went inside. Jake and Sarah stood on the porch alone. I'm sorry about that, Sarah said. She asks too many questions. She's just curious. It's okay. Emma Martinez was 7 years old, but she understood more than most people thought. She understood that her mama was lonely even though she pretended not to be. She understood that her daddy was not coming back, no matter how many times he promised to visit. And she definitely understood that something special was happening between her mama and the cowboy who fixed their fence. Emma liked Jake. He talked to her like she was a real person, not just a little kid. He did not pat her head or use that fake sweet voice that most adults used. When she asked him questions, he gave her real answers. Plus, he made her mama smile. Not the tired smile mama used at work, or the worried smile she used when checking their bills. A real smile. The kind that made her whole face light up. Emma decided she was going to help. Adults could be so silly about these things. They needed a push. It started small. A few days after Jake fixed the fence, Emma was playing outside when he drove past on his way back from the Henderson ranch. She waved at him like crazy until he stopped. Hey there, Emma. Everything okay? I'm fine. But I have a question about my homework and Mama doesn't know the answer. It's about horses. Do you know about horses? Jake looked toward the house. Is your mama home? Yeah, she's inside cooking dinner. But she said I could ask you if I saw you. That was not exactly true, but it was not exactly a lie either. Mama had said Emma could be friendly to neighbors. What's the question? Emma pulled out her notebook. She had written down a question that morning just in case. How do horses sleep? Do they lay down or stand up? Jake smiled. Both, actually. They can sleep standing up for short periods, but they need to lay down for deep sleep. They have special legs that lock in place so they don't fall over. That's so cool. Can you come tell Mama? She'll want to know too. Before Jake could answer, Emma was running toward the house. Mama, Jake's here. He's teaching me about horses. Sarah came to the door with flour on her hands. She looked surprised. Jake, is everything all right? Everything's fine. Emma had a question about her homework. Sarah looked at her daughter with suspicious eyes. Emma tried to look innocent. Well, since you're here, would you like to stay for dinner? The words came out of Sarah's mouth like they surprised her as much as anyone else. Emma held her breath. I don't want to impose, Jake said. It's just spaghetti. Nothing fancy. But there's plenty. Emma grabbed Jake's hand. Please. Mama makes the best spaghetti in the whole world. Jake looked down at Emma, then up at Sarah. If you're sure it's okay. Sarah nodded slowly. It's okay. But we eat on the porch. It's a nice evening. Emma wanted to argue. She wanted them to eat inside like a real family. But she knew better than to push too hard. The porch was progress. They ate dinner outside as the sun went down. Emma sat between them chattering about school and her teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, and her best friend, Lily, who had moved away last month. Do you miss her? Jake asked. A lot. We were friends since kindergarten. Now I don't really have anyone to play with at recess. That's hard. I'm sorry. It's okay. Mama says when one door closes, another one opens. What does that mean? Sarah smiled. It means when something ends, something new begins. Like how Daddy left, but then we got this house? Sarah's smile got sad. Kind of like that, yes. And like how your truck broke down, but then you met us? Emma looked at Jake. Jake's eyes met Sarah's over Emma's head. Yeah, kind of like that. After dinner, Emma helped clear the dishes. When she came back outside, Mama and Jake were talking quietly. They stopped when they saw her. What were you talking about? Emma asked. Grown-up stuff, Sarah said. That's what adults always say when they don't want kids to know they were talking about feelings. Jake laughed out loud. Sarah tried not to smile, but Emma could see she wanted to. You're too smart for your own good, Sarah said. That's what Daddy used to say too. The mood changed. It always did when Emma mentioned Daddy. She knew she should probably stop bringing him up, but sometimes she forgot. Jake stood up. I should get going. Thank you for dinner, Sarah. It really was the best spaghetti. You're welcome. Thank you for helping Emma with her homework. After Jake left, Sarah sat Emma down for a talk. Baby, did you really have homework about horses? Or was that an excuse to get Jake to stop? Emma looked at her feet. Kind of an excuse. But I really did want to know about how horses sleep. Emma, you can't trick people into spending time together. Why not? You like him. He likes you. I like him. Why can't we just be friends? It's complicated. Everything's complicated with grown-ups. Emma crossed her arms. You're happy when he's around, Mama, I can tell. Sarah's face got soft. It doesn't matter if I'm happy when he's around. What matters is keeping you safe. Keeping us safe. Safe from what? He's nice. Nice men can still leave, Emma. Nice men can still break your heart. Emma thought about that. She thought about her daddy, who was nice sometimes but had still left them. But Jake seemed different. He looked at Mama the way the princes in her storybooks looked at the princesses. What if he doesn't leave? Emma asked. We can't know that. We can't know anything for sure, Mama. That's what Mrs. Rodriguez says. She says we have to have faith sometimes. Sarah hugged her daughter tight. When did you get so wise? I'm 7. I've been alive a long time. Over the next few weeks, Emma continued her mission. She left her jump rope at the fence line where Jake would find it. She asked Sarah to invite Jake over to help fix the porch railing that was loose. She talked about Jake constantly until Sarah told her to please talk about literally anything else. But Emma could see it was working. Mama looked forward to Jake's visits. She started doing her hair nice even on days when she did not have work. She hummed while she cooked. Jake came around more often too. He always had some excuse. Needed to borrow a tool. Wanted to check on the horses. Wondered if Emma needed help with her homework. Emma knew the truth. He just wanted to see Mama. They never went inside though. Always on the porch or in the yard. Emma thought this was silly. It was getting colder outside. Soon it would be too cold to sit on the porch. She needed a better plan. The plan came to her one Saturday morning. Emma was playing in the yard when she saw Jake's truck coming down the road. She looked at the porch steps. She looked at her ankle. This was going to hurt, but it would be worth it. Emma sat down on the top step. She took a deep breath. Then she rolled her ankle under her and let herself tumble down the steps. She did not mean to hurt herself as much as she did. She thought it would just be a little fall. But she hit the ground hard and pain shot through her ankle for real. She started crying. Not fake crying like she had planned. Real crying, Emma. Sarah came running out of the house. Oh my God, baby, what happened? I fell down the steps, Emma sobbed. Her ankle hurt so bad. Jake's truck pulled into the driveway. He was out and running before the engine even stopped. What happened? She fell down the steps. Emma, can you move your ankle? Emma tried but cried out in pain. It hurts, Mama. We need to get her to the hospital, Jake said. I'll drive you. I can drive myself. Sarah, you're shaking. Let me help. Emma saw her mama look at Jake. Saw her want to say no, but then Mama nodded. Okay, thank you. Jake bent down and picked Emma up like she weighed nothing. Emma wrapped her arms around his neck. He smelled like horses and wood and something else that was just him. You're going to be okay, kiddo, he said softly. And even though her ankle hurt like crazy, Emma felt safe in his arms. Jake carried her to his truck. But when they got to the door, Sarah said, wait, we should take her inside first. Get her some ice. Make sure it's not broken before we drive all the way to the hospital. Emma held her breath again. Mama was going to let Jake inside the house. You sure? Jake asked. Yes, bring her inside. Jake carried Emma through the door, into the living room. He sat her down gently on the couch. It was the first time Jake had been inside their house. Emma watched him look around, at the photos on the walls, the books on the shelves, the blanket Grandma had made before she died. Sarah brought ice and a bandage. She wrapped Emma's ankle carefully while Jake held Emma's hand. I don't think it's broken, Sarah said finally. Probably just a bad sprain. But we should still get it checked. I'm sorry, Mama, Emma said. And she really was sorry. She had not meant for it to hurt this much. It's okay, baby. Accidents happen. Why were you on the steps by yourself? Emma could not tell her the truth. I was just sitting there. I guess I fell asleep and rolled off. It was a weak lie, but Sarah did not question it. They spent 3 hours at the emergency room. Jake stayed the whole time. He bought them terrible coffee from the vending machine and let Emma play games on his phone. When the doctor said it was just a sprain, Jake looked as relieved as Sarah did. On the drive home, Emma pretended to fall asleep in the back seat. She listened to Mama and Jake talk quietly in the front. Thank you for staying, Sarah said. Of course, I wasn't going to leave. You keep saying that. Saying what? That you're not going to leave. That you're staying. Why do you keep saying that? Jake was quiet for a long time. Because I think you need to hear it. And because it's true, I'm not going anywhere, Sarah. You can't promise that. Maybe not, but I can try my hardest to keep that promise. That's all anyone can do. Emma heard her mama sniffle a little like she was crying but trying not to. When they got home, Jake carried Emma inside again. The first snow of winter came in early December. Jake had been in town for almost 2 months now, and for the first time in years he felt like he had a home, not just a place to sleep but a real home, a place where people cared if he showed up, a place where he mattered. He spent most evenings at Sarah's house now. They sat on the porch when the weather was nice or in the living room when it was cold. Emma did her homework at the kitchen table while Jake helped Sarah cook dinner. They watched movies together, played board games, talked about everything and nothing. Sarah had started to relax around him. She laughed more, touched his arm when she talked, let him hold her hand while they watched TV after Emma went to bed. They had not kissed yet. Jake was waiting for the right moment, waiting for Sarah to be ready. He could be patient. He had learned that patience was the most important thing when it came to Sarah Martinez. Everything was going well. Better than well. Jake allowed himself to think about the future for the first time in years. Maybe he could sell his old place in Montana, buy some land here, build a real life with Sarah and Emma. Then Marcus showed up. It was a Saturday afternoon. Jake was at the Henderson Ranch fixing a water trough when an old Honda pulled into the driveway. Jake did not recognize the car. Then the driver got out and Jake's heart stopped. Marcus. His son had grown up. The last time Jake saw him, Marcus was 16 years old and angry. Now he was 19, taller with a beard that made him look older than his years. He was skinny, too skinny. His clothes were dirty and his eyes looked tired. Dad? Marcus said. Jake could not speak for a moment. He just stared at this young man who was his son but also a stranger. "Marcus, what are you doing here? I tracked you down. It wasn't easy. You don't exactly stay in one place." Marcus's voice was sharp, bitter. "How did you find me?" "Mom said you were in Texas somewhere. I called around to rodeo contacts. Someone knew you were working at this ranch." Marcus crossed his arms. "Can we talk?" "Of course. Let me tell Mr. Henderson I'm taking a break." They went to Jake's small cabin behind the barn. It was not much. Just a bed, a table, a hot plate for cooking. But it was clean and it was his. Marcus looked around with judgmental eyes. "This is where you live?" "It's temporary." "What's going on, Marcus? Why are you here?" Marcus sat down on the only chair. "Mom kicked me out." Jake's stomach dropped. "Why?" "Because I'm a screw-up, Dad, just like you." Marcus laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "I dropped out of college. Lost my job. Got behind on rent. She said she was done helping me. Said I needed to figure things out on my own. So you came here. Where else was I supposed to go?" Marcus's voice cracked. "You're my father, even if you haven't acted like it in 3 years." The words hit Jake like a punch, because they were true. After the divorce, Jake had sent money when he could, but he had not called much. Had not visited. He told himself it was because Marcus did not want to see him. But the truth was that Jake had been too ashamed, too broken. He did not think he had anything good to offer his son. "You're right," Jake said quietly. "I should have been there." "I'm sorry." Marcus looked surprised, like he had expected Jake to argue or make excuses. "I don't need sorry. I need help. I need a place to stay until I can get back on my feet." Jake thought about his tiny cabin, about his job that barely paid enough for one person, about Sarah and Emma and the life he was building. "You can stay here," he heard himself say. "We'll figure it out." Marcus nodded. "Thanks, but there are rules. No drinking, no drugs. You help out around the ranch. And you need to look for work." "I'm not a kid, Dad. I know how things work." But over the next few weeks, Jake learned that Marcus did not know how things worked. Or maybe he knew and just did not care. Marcus slept until noon. He did not help with the ranch work. He borrowed Jake's truck without asking and brought it back on empty. And worst of all, Jake found beer cans in the cabin. "I thought I said no drinking," Jake confronted him one evening. "It's just beer, not like I'm getting drunk." "It doesn't matter. This is not your place. It's mine." "And I said no drinking. Since when do you care about drinking? You were drunk half my childhood." The words stung because they were true. Jake had been a terrible example. And now he was watching his son make all the same mistakes. It got worse. Marcus was angry all the time. Angry at his mother. Angry at Jake. Angry at the world. Jake recognized that anger because he had worn it himself for so many years. One night, Jake came home and found Marcus drunk. Really drunk. He was sitting on the cabin floor crying and yelling and breaking things. "You left us," Marcus screamed. "You left me and Mom and you didn't care what happened to us." "That's not true." "Yes, it is. You cared more about riding bulls than you cared about your own family." Jake tried to calm him down, but Marcus was too far gone. He punched the wall. Threw a lamp. Jake had to physically restrain him. The next morning, Marcus did not remember most of it. Jake looked at his son's bloodshot eyes and saw himself at that age. Broken, lost, self-destructive. And Jake realized something terrible. He was slipping back into old patterns. The stress of dealing with Marcus was bringing out the worst in him. He was short-tempered. He was not sleeping. And one night he almost stopped at the bar on his way home from work. He did not stop. But the fact that he almost did scared him. Sarah noticed the change in him. He had not been to her house in over a week. He made excuses. Said he was busy with work. But the truth was he did not want her to see him like this. Angry and short-tempered and barely holding himself together. Finally, she showed up at the Henderson ranch. Jake was fixing a fence when her truck pulled up. Emma was in the passenger seat. "We haven't seen you in 9 days, Sarah said. Her voice was careful, controlled. "Emma's worried." "I'm worried." Jake put down his tools. "I'm fine. Just busy." "You're lying." Emma got out of the truck. "Are you mad at us, Jake?" "No, sweetheart. I'm not mad at you." "Then why won't you come visit?" Jake did not know what to say. Sarah stepped closer. "What's going on?" she asked softly. Jake looked at Emma. "Can you go sit in the truck for a minute? I need to talk to your mama." Emma looked worried, but she did as she was told. Once she was out of earshot, Jake told Sarah everything. About Marcus showing up, about the drinking and the anger and how Jake felt himself falling back into his old self. "I can't come around you and Emma right now," he said. "Not like this. I'm not good for you." Sarah's face went pale. "So that's it? You're just going to push us away?" "I'm trying to protect you." "I don't need protection from you, Jake. I need you to let me help. You can't help with this. This is my problem. Your son is here and struggling. How is that just your problem?" "Because he's my son. My responsibility. My mess." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Do you hear yourself? You're doing exactly what my ex-husband did, shutting me out, making decisions for both of us, deciding what I can and can't handle. This is different." "How? How is it different?"
Jake did not have an answer for that. Sarah wiped her eyes.
"I thought you were different from him. I thought you were someone who stayed, who worked through hard things instead of running away. I'm not running away. I'm still here. Are you? Because it feels like you already left." They stood there in the cold December air, the wind biting at their faces.
Jake wanted to reach for her.
Wanted to tell her he was sorry. That he loved her. That he did not want to lose her. But the words would not come. Because what if he was not different? What if he was still the same broken man who had ruined his first family? What if he would just end up hurting Sarah and Emma the way he had hurt his wife and son? "Maybe you were right," Jake said finally. His voice was rough. "That first night when you wouldn't let me inside. Maybe you saw something in me, something dangerous, something that was going to hurt you eventually." Sarah's face crumpled. "Don't do this. I meant it when I said I wasn't going to leave. But maybe I should. Maybe that would be better for everyone. Is that what you really want?" Jake looked at her. At this woman who had slowly let him into her life. Who had trusted him with her daughter. Who had made him believe he could be better. "No," he whispered. "But I don't know how to be what you need right now." Sarah nodded slowly. Tears ran down her face. "Then don't come back until you figure it out." She got in her truck and drove away. Emma waved at him through the window, confused and sad. Jake watched them disappear down the road. That night, Marcus came home drunk again. Jake had had enough. "You need to leave," he said. "What?" "I said you need to leave. This isn't working. You're destroying yourself and you're taking me down with you." Marcus's face twisted with anger. "So you're kicking me out? Just like Mom did?" "I'm not kicking you out. I'm telling you that you need help, real help, not just a place to crash. I'm your son. I know, and I love you. But I can't watch you do this to yourself anymore. And I can't let you pull me back into the person I used to be." "The person you used to be?" "Dad, you're still that person. You're still the angry drunk who cares more about himself than anyone else." The words should have hurt, but instead they made something clear in Jake's mind. "You're right," he said. "I was that person. For a long time. But I've been trying to be different. And I almost succeeded, until you showed up and reminded me of every mistake I ever made. So this is my fault? No, it's mine. I should have been a better father from the start." 3 months passed. Winter turned into early spring. The world came back to life, but Jake felt like he was still frozen in that December day when Sarah drove away. He kept his promise to himself. He went to AA meetings 3 times a week. At first it was hard, sitting in a circle with strangers admitting he had a problem, talking about his feelings. Everything in him wanted to run, but he stayed. He shared his story. He listened to other people's stories. He learned that he was not alone, that lots of people carried the same kind of pain and shame and regret. He got a sponsor, a man named Robert who had been sober for 15 years. Robert was tough but kind. He did not let Jake make excuses. He pushed Jake to be honest about everything. About his anger. About his fear. About Sarah. "You love this woman?" Robert asked one day over coffee. "Yes," Jake said. It was the first time he had admitted it out loud. "Then you need to fight for her. She told me not to come back until I figured things out." "And have you figured things out?" Jake thought about it. "I'm trying. I'm not drinking. I'm going to meetings. I'm dealing with my issues. That's good. But have you forgiven yourself?" Jake looked at his coffee. "I don't know if I deserve forgiveness. Nobody deserves it. That's why it's called grace. You accept it anyway." Jake started seeing a therapist too, a woman named Dr. Chen who helped him understand where his anger came from. They talked about his childhood, about his father who had been hard and cold, About how Jake had promised himself he would never be like his dad, and then became exactly like him. "You're breaking the cycle," Dr. Chen told him. "That takes courage." Jake did not feel courageous. He felt scared and small and broken, but he kept showing up. To meetings, to therapy, to work. He kept putting one foot in front of the other. He thought about Sarah and Emma every day. He drove past their house sometimes late at night, just to see the lights on and know they were safe. He never stopped, never knocked on the door. He had promised to stay away until he figured things out, and he was going to keep that promise. In February, he got a letter from Marcus. His son was in a rehab program in Colorado. His mother had helped him get in after he had hit rock bottom. Marcus wrote that he was angry at Jake for making him leave, but he also understood why Jake had done it. He said he was working on himself, that maybe someday they could have a real relationship. Jake cried when he read the letter. Good tears this time. Hope tears. He wrote back immediately. He told Marcus he was proud of him, that he loved him, that he was working on himself too, that they could heal together, even if it was from far away. He also called his ex-wife for the first time in 2 years. She was surprised to hear from him. "I'm sorry," he told her, "for everything, for not being the husband you deserved, for not being the father Marcus needed." She was quiet for a long time. "Thank you for saying that. I'm sorry too, for giving up on us so easily, for not fighting harder. You fought as long as you could. I was the one who broke us. It takes 2 people to break a marriage, Jake. We both made mistakes." They talked for an hour. It did not fix the past, but it helped. It felt like closing a door that had been left open for too long. Now they could both move forward. March came. The weather got warmer. Flowers started blooming. Jake had been sober for 4 months. He had worked through a lot of his issues. He felt stronger, clearer, more like the man he wanted to be, but he still had not talked to Sarah. He wanted to. God, he wanted to. But what if she had moved on? What if she did not want to see him? What if he had ruined things beyond repair? Robert told him he was making excuses. "You're afraid. That's fine. Be afraid and do it anyway." Dr. Chen said the same thing. You can't control how she responds. You can only control your actions. So act. Jake knew they were right. But knowing something and doing something were very different. Then Emma's 8th birthday came. Jake saw the invitation in town. Sarah had put up flyers for a birthday party at their house. All of Emma's classmates were invited. Jake stared at the flyer for a long time. Then he went to the woodworking shop he had been using in his free time. He had been working on a project for weeks. A jewelry box made of oak and cedar. He had carved horses into the lid and lined the inside with soft velvet. It was the best thing he had ever made. He wrapped it carefully. Wrote a card that said, "Happy birthday, Emma. I'm proud to know you. Love, Jake." On the day of the party, Jake drove to Sarah's house. His hand shook on the steering wheel. His heart pounded so hard he could hear it in his ears. There were cars everywhere. Kids running around the yard. Balloons tied to the fence. The smell of barbecue in the air. Jake parked on the road and walked up to the house carrying the gift. He felt like he was walking to his own execution. Sarah was on the porch talking to some parents. She looked beautiful. Her hair was down and she was smiling. Then she saw him and the smile disappeared. Jake stopped at the bottom of the porch steps. The same steps where this had all started. The same place where Emma had fallen and he had carried her inside for the first time. "Hi," he said. "Jake." Sarah's voice was flat. "Careful. I know you said not to. Come back until I figured things out. I hope it's okay that I'm here." "I brought something for Emma." Emma appeared in the doorway. Her eyes went huge. "Jake!" She ran down the steps and threw her arms around him. Jake hugged her tight. She smelled like birthday cake and sunshine. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. I missed you so much." "Where have you been?" "I've been working on myself, trying to be better." "Are you better now?" Jake smiled. "I'm getting there." Sarah came down the steps slowly. "Emma, go back to your party. I need to talk to Jake for a minute." "But Mama..." "Now please." Emma gave Jake one more hug and ran back inside. Jake handed Sarah the gift. "For Emma. I made it myself." Sarah took it but did not open it. "You can't just show up like this." "I know." "I'm sorry." "But it's her birthday and I couldn't not come. I've been thinking about you two every day for 3 months. Then why didn't you call? Or come by? You just disappeared." Because you told me not to come back until I figured things out, and I needed time to do that. And have you figured things out? Jake took a deep breath. This was it, the moment he had been preparing for. I've been going to AA meetings 3 times a week. I've been seeing a therapist. I reconnected with my son and my ex-wife. I've been working on understanding why I'm angry, and how to deal with it in healthy ways. He paused. I'm not perfect. I'm not healed. But I'm trying. Really trying. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Why didn't you let me help you? Why did you push me away? Because I was scared. I was scared that I would hurt you and Emma the way I hurt my first family. I thought the best thing I could do was stay away until I was sure I wouldn't mess everything up. You don't get to make that decision for me, Jake. I'm a grown woman. I can decide what risks I want to take. You're right. I'm sorry. I should have talked to you. Should have let you in. They stood there in the spring sunshine, surrounded by the sounds of children playing and parents laughing. But for Jake, it felt like the whole world had narrowed down to just him and Sarah. I love you, Jake said. The words came out rough and raw. I've loved you since the first night you opened your door and looked at me like I was dangerous but helped me anyway. I love how strong you are, how you protect Emma, how you make the best spaghetti in the world. He smiled a little. I love that you made me stay on the porch for 2 months because you were too smart to trust me right away. Sarah was crying now. Really crying. I love you too, she whispered. I've been so angry at you for leaving, but I also missed you every single day. I didn't leave. I'm right here. And I'm not going anywhere. Not ever again. You said that before. I know. But this time is different. This time I'm not the same man who knocked on your door last year. I'm not perfect, Sarah. I'm still working through things. I'll probably always be working through things. But I'm trying. And I'm committed to my sobriety, to my healing. To you and Emma. Sarah looked at the gift in her hands. She unwrapped it slowly. When she saw the jewelry box, she gasped. She ran her fingers over the carved horses, opened it and saw the soft velvet inside. You made this? Spent every evening for the past 2 months working on it. Woodworking is part of my therapy. Helps me focus. Keeps my hands busy. It's beautiful. Not as beautiful as you. Sarah laughed through her tears. That's a terrible line. I know. I'm not good at this. But I mean it. Sarah set the box down on the porch steps. She walked down until she was standing right in front of Jake. So close he could smell her perfume. If I let you back into our lives, you have to promise me something. Anything. Don't run when things get hard. Talk to me, let me help. We face things together or not at all, I promise. And you keep going to meetings. Keep seeing your therapist. Keep doing the work. I will. And you're patient with Emma. She's been asking about you every single day. She's going to want all of your attention. Jake smiled. I can handle that. Sarah reached up and touched his face. Her hand was warm and soft. And you have to come inside. No more staying on the porch. If you're going to be part of this family, you're really going to be part of it. All the way. Jake's breath caught. Family? Yes, family if you want that. More than anything. Sarah smiled. Then she stood on her toes and kissed him.